Heavy snowfall has continued to affect the nation throughout the day, particularly in the capital, causing traffic disruption and power outages. President Yoon hosts Ukraine's special delegation at his office. Eyes are on discussions over a weapons provision to Ukraine amid North Korea's involvement in the war. A ceasefire deal between Israel and the Lebanese militant group Hezbollah has been signed and began on Wednesday after more than a year of conflict. It's November 27th, 8 p.m. in Seoul. This is Newscenter. Thank you for joining us. I'm Yoon. We begin with the record snowfall in November. This caused a major disruption today for many, including commuters and drivers. Park Go-nu reports.
The first snow of the season fell heavy. On Wednesday, the Seoul Meteorological Observatory said the heaviest snow accumulation of the day reached nearly 20 centimeters during the daytime. That's the heaviest snow recorded on any day in November since 1907, when such observations were first made. The previous record was 12.4 centimeters in November 1972. One expert explains why this happened.
Cold air passing over the West Sea created snow clouds due to the sea-air temperature difference. The sea surface temperature was 2 to 3 degrees Celsius higher, intensifying the snow clouds. And along with the expanding Siberian high-pressure system, this time the snow clouds followed the westerly winds into the capital region unexpectedly.
Here in Seoul, heavy snow that began last night is still falling this afternoon, and I'm currently standing in the middle of it. The roads are quite slippery and people are walking extra carefully to avoid slipping on sidewalks.
It's hard to believe how much snow has fallen. There's so much that the ground is soaked and it's still coming down heavily, making it difficult to walk around.
The morning commute was especially crowded with traffic at a standstill in many areas.
It's snowing so heavily that I couldn't see in front of me. There was the first snowfall of the season, which is exciting. Many commuters would have been flustered by the heavy traffic during rush hour.
Other areas in the country, such as Gangwon-do province, also saw a lot of snow, leading to accidents, including a car crash on the Seoul-Pyongyang expressway that resulted in 1 person dead and 6 injured. Scores of flights departing from domestic airports were also delayed or cancelled. Due to the heavy snow, the Interior Ministry activated Level 2 of the Central Disaster and Safety Countermeasures Headquarters response posture and strengthened related measures. It also raised the heavy snow warning to alert. President Yoon ordered related authorities to mobilize all snow removal personnel and equipment to prevent accidents and traffic congestion. He also ordered an increase in public transportation during peak hours. And the Korea Meteorological Administration predicted the heavy snow will continue across the country until Thursday morning. Park Go-nu, Arirang News.
Today, President Yoon hosted a Ukrainian delegation led by its defense minister to discuss effective cooperation against the illegal military cooperation between Russia and North Korea on the war front. Our Kim Do-yeon has the details.
As announced, President Yoon met with Ukraine's special delegation led by its defense minister Rustem Umerov as the two sides discussed response measures and shared intelligence regarding North Korea's deployment of troops for Russia. On Wednesday, according to a statement from the top office, the two sides agreed to keep deepening cooperation against Moscow and Pyongyang. The delegation also met with National Security Advisor Shin Won-sik and National Defense Minister Kim Yong-hyun. The sending of the delegation was announced late last month following South Korea's intelligence agency revealing North Korea's deployment of troops. And as North Korea's involvement in the war has further exposed threats for South Korea as Moscow and Pyongyang's deepening military cooperation directly affects the Korean peninsula as well, South Korea will start reviewing whether to provide defensive weapons first and respond in phases as things unfold. So far, South Korea has only provided non-lethal equipment such as bulletproof vests, but recently said it will classify weapons into either defensive or offensive. While Seoul and Kyiv deepen their relationship, the re-election of former U.S. President Donald Trump creates a new atmosphere as Trump has said he's looking to end the war in Ukraine as early as within 24 hours of taking office next year. However, the statement eased these concerns, saying the Biden administration and President-elect Trump's team are responding as, quote, one team to the Ukraine crisis. They pledged to maintain close communication and coordination. Kim Do-yeon, Arirang News.
Turning to the war in Ukraine, Russia has launched its largest ever drone attack on Ukraine, causing substantial damage. Moscow also vowed retaliation after Ukraine hit Russia with American missiles twice last week. Cha Yoon has more.
Russia launched a massive drone attack on Ukraine overnight on Monday and Tuesday, causing damage to residential buildings and power outages in various areas, according to The Guardian. Russia flew 188 drones, mostly in parts of western Ukraine, against various targets. The Ukrainian Air Force said in a statement that there were hits to critical infrastructure facilities and private apartment buildings were damaged in several areas due to the attack. Russia's largest drone attack since its invasion of Ukraine led to power outages there. The governor of Western Ternopil, Vyacheslav Nehoda, said that about 70% of the region was without power, adding that significant damage to facilities will have an impact on power supplies to the entire region for a long time. Several buildings were also damaged around Kyiv, but there were no casualties reported. It has been reported that the Ukrainian Air Force shot down 76 of the drones. While Russia has vowed retaliatory actions for Ukrainian strikes on military targets inside Russia using U.S. long-range missiles, its forces are pushing hard along the front line in the east of Ukraine. Ukraine hit Russia with U.S.-made ATACMS twice over the last 3 days, both targeting Russian forces' positions in the Kursk region. In the second attack on Monday, 1 missile out of 8 reached its target, wounding 2 soldiers, the Russian Defense Ministry said in a statement. In the meantime, an unnamed official from the U.S. Department of Defense officially confirmed to RFA's Korean service on Tuesday that casualties among North Korean troops occurred in the Kursk region of Russia last week, following a Ukrainian attack using British Storm Shadow missiles. Cha Yoon, Arirang News.
In the Middle East, a truce has taken effect to halt the fighting between Israel and Hezbollah. Cho Soo-hyung has the latest.
A deadly cross-border conflict between Israel and the Lebanon-based Hezbollah has now entered a 60-day ceasefire. On Tuesday, U.S. President Joe Biden announced that a U.S. and France-led ceasefire initiative started at 4 a.m. on Wednesday. He also said this could lead to a permanent cessation of hostilities.
I'm pleased to announce that their governments have accepted the United States proposal to end the devastating conflict between Israel and Hezbollah. Effective at 4 a.m. tomorrow local time, the fighting across the Lebanese-Israeli border will end.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu announced a ceasefire on Tuesday evening, stating that the promised agreement had been fulfilled.
I have said many times that a good agreement is an agreement that is enforced, and we will enforce it.
The Iranian government, which has long opposed Israel and supported the Lebanese-based militant group Hezbollah with weapons and funds, said it was pleased to welcome the ceasefire between the two sides. South Korea has also welcomed and thanked the country's diplomatic efforts involved in ceasefire negotiations. Following the agreement, Israel will withdraw its troops from southern Lebanon during the ceasefire period. Lebanese forces will reclaim control of areas currently held by Hezbollah. Hezbollah will remove its fighters and weapons from an area south of Lebanon's Litani River, established as the boundary following the 2006 Israel-Hezbollah war. Netanyahu emphasized that if Hezbollah breaks the ceasefire deal, he will strike back right away. Experts said that Hezbollah would focus more on its internal issues for now.
So, multinational forces are going to be observing and trying to prevent anything that would violate the ceasefire. Right now, I think, even though it's always difficult to predict, but I think it seems like Hezbollah will probably lay low and focus on domestic concern.
Meanwhile, Israel carried out an intensive airstrike in Beirut before the agreement went into effect. AFP reported that the Israeli military issued an evacuation warning in Beirut and conducted around 20 attacks on the outskirts of Beirut, targeting Hezbollah military bases. The 60-day ceasefire temporarily pauses fighting, the locals say has killed nearly 4,000 people since it started. Cha Yoon, Arirang News.
U.S. President-elect Donald Trump is reportedly weighing his options of resuming dialogue with North Korea's Kim Jong-un. Lee Soo-jin explains the outlook.
U.S. President-elect Donald Trump's team is considering re-engaging with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, which may lead to a diplomatic and political shift on the Korean peninsula. Reuters reported on Tuesday local time that two people familiar with the matter said that Trump's team is weighing the possibility of direct talks with Kim in the hope of lowering the risk of armed conflict. This comes as Trump appointed Alex Wong, who played a key role in his Singapore and Hanoi summits with Kim, as Deputy National Security Advisor, heightening speculation about a renewed interest in pursuing dialogue with North Korea. Trump met with the North Korean leader a total of 3 times during his first term, at the summit in Singapore in 2018, Hanoi in February 2019, and then a third impromptu meeting at the DMZ a couple months later on June 2019. The U.S. president-elect also hinted at his interest in talks between the U.S. and North Korea in his speech at the Republican National Convention in July, saying that he will get along with Kim if he takes office again. But there are still major hurdles to overcome before a U.S.-North Korea summit takes place. It's unclear whether North Korea would be willing to re-engage with Trump after 4 years of no direct dialogue between the North and the Biden administration, with Kim instead focusing on advancing North Korea's missile capabilities and relations with Russia. There are also more pressing foreign matters such as the war in Ukraine and the Middle East, as well as domestic issues that Trump has vowed to address from his first day in office. But with his team considering talks with North Korea during the transition period, a summit with Kim may be sought soon after the inauguration on January 20. If such a summit takes place, it will be crucial for South Korea to be included in order for security interests in the region to not be undermined, especially in regard to denuclearization. Lee Soo-jin, Arirang News.
The Marine Corps conducted a live fire drill today near Pyongyang Island. South Korea's Northwest Islands Defense Command confirmed that over 200 rounds were fired from K-9 self-propelled howitzers during Wednesday's exercise. The military emphasized that this fourth-quarter drill was routine, defensive, and part of an annual schedule to maintain readiness and enhance firepower. This marks the 4th such drill near the Northwestern Islands this year, reflecting South Korea's commitment to consistent defense measures along its maritime borders. U.S. President-elect Trump continues to fill out his team, this time announcing picks for the next trade representative for his tariff plans, as well as the head of the National Economic Council. Yoon has the details.
Donald Trump has named Jamieson Greer, a trade lawyer and former Trump official, as his pick to serve as the next U.S. trade representative, a critical role that will help shape the new administration's tariff plans. Greer serves as the chief of staff to Robert Lighthizer, who was the country's trade representative during Trump's first term, and helped lead tariff hikes on goods from China. If confirmed, Greer would be responsible for directly negotiating with foreign governments on trade deals and disputes. The announcement comes a day after Trump pledged to impose a 25% tariff on all goods coming from Mexico and Canada on day 1 of his presidency. He said on social media on Monday that the tariffs would remain in place until the two countries clamp down on drugs, particularly fentanyl, and migrants crossing the border illegally. Separately, he also vowed to impose an additional 10% tariff above any additional tariffs on imports from China, as he pushes forward with his America First policy. During his campaign, he had earlier threatened tariffs of 60% on Chinese goods. Meanwhile, Trump has also tapped Kevin Hassett to lead the White House National Economic Council, a role that helps set the country's domestic and international economic policy. Hassett was Trump's key economic advisor during his first presidency from 2017 to 2019. He's expected to have a role pushing for a renewal of Trump's previous tax cuts, many of which are set to expire at the end of next year. Announcing this, Trump said Hassett will play an important role in helping American families recover from the inflation that was unleashed by the Biden administration, and that together they would renew and improve the 2017 tax cuts. Yoon, Arirang News.
And South Korea is bracing for impact from incoming President Donald Trump's potential tariffs on Canadian and Mexican goods. The presidential office on Wednesday held an emergency review of the incoming U.S. administration's economic policies. Chaired by Presidential Chief of Staff for Policy Song Tae-yoon, officials examined the potential impact on Korean businesses if the U.S. imposes a 25% tariff on Mexico and Canada and an additional 10% tariff on China. Song said such measures could affect Korean firms in these countries which export goods to the U.S., as well as companies that procure parts from Mexico and Canada for production in the U.S. While tariffs on China are likely to have a limited direct impact on Korean firms, if Chinese exports to the U.S. decrease, there may be an impact on Korea's intermediate goods exports to China. Song called on government ministries to prepare comprehensive scenario-based response strategies in advance. Findings for the third quarter show a rebound in the number of newborns, which rose 8% on year. The country could see an annual increase in the number of births for the first time in almost a decade if this trend continues. Moon Hye-ryun covers the latest findings.
The number of births in South Korea saw a surprising rebound in the third quarter, surging at rates unseen in more than a decade. According to data released by Statistics Korea on Wednesday, the total number of births between July and September came to just over 61,000, surging by 8% compared to the same period last year. Such a year-on-year increase has not been recorded since the fourth quarter of 2012. This brings the total fertility rate, the average number of children a woman will have during her reproductive years, to 0.76, up 0.05 from the previous year. It comes as the total number of births in September this year tallied up to 20,590, which is more than 10% higher than the same month in 2023, marking the highest increase for the month of September since 2010. If this trend continues, the country could see an annual increase in the number of births for the first time in 9 years. On Tuesday, the Presidential Committee on Aging Society and Population Policy predicted that the annual total fertility rate will come to 0.74. The government attributed the incline to the continued rise in the number of marriages recorded, as figures showed a sharp uptick of nearly 19% in September and 24% in the third quarter compared to last year. A spokesperson from Statistics Korea also commented on the increase in the number of women in their 30s, as well as changing views on having children.
There are more women in their early 30s, and as you can see, the number of births from mothers in their 30s showed a large increase. And in a recent survey, we were able to find that views on having children are changing in a positive way, as did a survey taken by the Presidential Committee on Aging Society and Population Policy.
Data shows that the birth rate for women aged between 30 to 34 years old had the sharpest year-on-year increase in the third quarter of this year, rising by 6.6%. Experts also say that it's worth noting that the large increase this year should be viewed as a base effect of a nearly 15% decline in September last year, and that population policies introduced at the start of this year will begin to reflect in the data next year.
There were several new policies introduced at the start of the year that could have an effect, targeting newlyweds, the main group that will have children. So if there is to be an effect, it'll start showing slowly next year.
Meanwhile, the number of deaths exceeded that of the number of births in the third quarter of this year, meaning that the country's population saw a natural decline of more than 28,000. Moon Hye-ryun, Arirang News.
In other news, a concert took place here in South Korea, bringing together artists from both sides of the peninsula to raise greater awareness about the plight of people held against their will in North Korea and about the pain of division. Our culture correspondent Song Yoo-jin has a story.
8 Korean artists, 3 from the South and 5 originally from the North, unite on stage for the 2024 Healing Concert with 3 Forget-Me-Not Blossoms. Organized by the Ministries of Culture and Unification, the Canadian Embassy in Korea, and the Citizens Alliance for North Korean Human Rights, the event commemorated abductees, detainees, and Korean War prisoners still held in the North, as well as families separated by the war.
This concert symbolizes hope for the safe return of those in the North, for separated families to reunite, and for the day we see a unified Korea. Culture connects us, even across borders, which is why our ministry took part in this event.
Our ministry has been using the 3 forget-me-not blossom symbol, each blossom representing abductees, detainees and war prisoners, in campaigns to raise awareness. This concert adds a new dimension by involving artists, including North Korean defectors.
Participating musicians from both sides of the border had a rare chance to sing from the same hymn sheet, performing as one to share a message of hope.
I hope my voice brings comfort to the abductees, detainees, and separated families. Hearing about the risks people take to defect to the South is both humbling and heart-wrenching. To be able to perform together with them fills me with deep emotion.
Having grown up in North Korea and now living in the South, I know the pain of leaving your home and family behind. I sincerely hope that those in the North who have been separated from their families in the South without even knowing if they are alive can soon be reunited.
But this concert isn't just about looking back. It also aimed to shed light on the ongoing humanitarian crisis in the North.
For decades, they've been enduring unimaginable human rights violations. We need more events like this to raise awareness and inspire action. I hope these voices of hope and solidarity reach those in the North.
We have had an inaugural dialogue between our two countries on North Korean human rights. Music is a universal language, and I can't think of a more appropriate way of speaking to the universality of human rights as we approach International Human Rights Day later in December.
It was an evening where music became a powerful voice for harmony, a balm for the wounds of Korea's division, and a beacon of hope for a future where no one is left behind. 송유진, Arirang News.
This morning, 16.5 centimeters of snow had accumulated in Seoul, recording the highest snowfall in November in 117 years. With heavy snow advisories and warnings in place, more heavy snow is expected tonight. In particular, central parts and inland areas of southern parts of the country should be prepared. Up to 20 centimeters of snow will fall in the southern parts of Gyeonggi-do province and southwest parts of Gangwon-do province by tomorrow. As much as 10 centimeters of snow is also expected in the Seoul metropolitan area, northwestern parts of Gangwon-do province, 15 centimeters in Chungcheongbuk-do province, and eastern parts of Jeollabuk-do province. Under frigid conditions, the morning will start at below 0 degrees in some areas. Seoul -2 degrees Celsius, Chuncheon -3. Daily highs will move up to 4 degrees in Seoul, Gwangju and Gyeongju 10 degrees. Please dress extra warm as the temperatures will get colder by Friday. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world.
That is Newscenter for tonight. Thank you for watching. A panel session up next.